So I thought it might be helpful to talk a bit about the new 4MS Pod Eurorack cases, and also how I'm turning a Pod 60 into a mobile Eurorack system. So 4MS has come out with four different, actually eight different if you count powered and unpowered, but four different sizes of pods, and they range from 20, 26, 32, and 60 HP. And I got a 60 HP pod. I had some ideas about certain modules I wanted to put into it, and I got an unpowered version because I came up with my own power system to put in the pod. So let's just take a look at the pod here, and it's really a fairly simple case. You get some specs that talk about hooking up modules to the other various sizes of pods. You get some M3 screws, and then some little sticky feet to go on the bottom and stop the case from sliding around. These are the kind of feet that pretty much are going to fall off within a couple weeks, but not too worried about that. So let's look at the case here. I think that the case is really innovative in a number of ways. The size, to me, is innovative. The size and the weight. The Pod 60 here is under a pound. I think it's 14 ounces. And instead of using rails that have nuts or inserts on the rails, the sheet metal is folded over, and the screw holes are all tapped on the top and the bottom. And the other thing that's innovative about the case is they traded off dimensions in terms of, instead of making the case a little bit deeper and being able to put a bus board on the back of the case, as most cases, they added some space at the top here, so the bus board fits up into the top part of the case. So this keeps the case pretty thin, maybe too thin for some modules, but they are coming out with deeper cases. And just as a little bit of a comparison, I want to show you the depth of the 4MS pod here versus a Make Noise skiff. Let's put it over here just so you can kind of see the difference in depth. And the Make Noise skiff, which by any means is not, is still a skiff and not that deep, is still about twice as thick as the 4MS pod. So there's a couple more things I like about the pods. I like the fact that they're made out of aluminum and not sheet steel, because you can also easily drill and alter aluminum, and I had to do that to set up my system. But just to show you how modules fit in, of course, 4MS modules, all the 4MS modules I have, that don't have any problem at all fitting into the pod, as you'd expect. They've been making them fairly shallow, and what I've really found is, if you have modules that have a depth of one circuit board, really, that aren't layered, and then the connector on the back of that, they will pretty much fit into the pods, even though they're quite shallow. And there are a lot of modules that will fit. Here's a Mannequin's Just Friends, and it's got 3 layers of circuit board, but the third layer is just really a protective and art layer on the module. And you can see that the power connector is coming off the main board here. So it fits, no problem. Loquelic Ateritas, no issue there. And here you do have a third little daughter board here, but the power connector comes off the main board, and the daughter board really is about the same height as the power connector, so no issues with that. Maths, pretty shallow, no problem. So there's a lot of modules I found. You could certainly put together a nice little mini system, probably with what you have. Although you may want to wait until the next generation of pods comes out that are a little bit deeper. I measured the depth on this, and not maybe as precisely as I could have, but I measured about 32 millimeters of depth, and that includes the power connector on the module. So you've really got to have a module that is fairly shallow to fit in here. And you can't always trust the manufacturer's specifications on depth. Sometimes they're just not measured very accurately. So the main reason I got this is to put in my own power supply. And this is a power supply that originally started its life as something called Stupid USB by Tom Whitwell of Music Thing Modular. And it's really meant to be a simple power supply that converts 5 volts into positive 12 volts and negative 12 volts, and then passes along also some of the positive 5 volt signal, the positive 5 volt power that is powering the bus board. And the reason for this, the idea behind it, is that you can power a small Eurorack system using a cell phone or a laptop battery. And this is an Anker 20,000 milliamp hour lithium battery. And so this will essentially puts out 5 volts, and it will essentially power something that draws 2 amps for 10 hours. So this is a variation of the Stupid USB that was designed by Matt Gaines, and you can get these at Modular Addict, the PCBs. I don't know of anywhere that is selling these already constructed, but they're pretty simple, really. There's very few parts. There's some power headers, a few LEDs, a few resistors, a capacitor, a power converter, and also a USB input. So it's not that complicated to build it. So what I did was put some Velcro on the back of the bus board here, and that allows me to, and there's some Velcro inside the case as well. And I can put the bus board in the case, put it down like that, and then I've got my mobile power supply. And the one modification I had to do is I had to drill out a hole for the USB Type B plug, because it wouldn't fit on the pre-drilled holes. And you can see there's a pre-drilled hole over here, and there was one over here the same size, that are meant for the power inlet, and then a linking power cable if you have multiple 4MS pods, and then a couple little holes that probably support the bus board. Some standoffs for the bus board that they supply if you buy the powered version. So what I did is I drilled out, with a larger bit, I drilled out a bigger hole so I could fit this horrible chunky Type B USB cable through the hole. And then I took a Dremel and then just squared off the hole and put a little Velcro over it. So I can push this through, and take this off here. And then if you plug this in, you can plug it in and fit it back fit it back here. And so I put it on Velcro just because I thought I might at some point put in a regular power supply. Not run off a battery, but it kind of gives you the option there. And so very portable and kind of simple system for running off a battery.